Hello, fellow adventurers. It's David here. Thank you, as always, for following my preparation and planning for my upcoming Transamerica bicycle ride. I'm a numbers guy. I teach databases, programming, and data mining courses. I enjoy breaking things down like cost, distance, value, and performance by the numbers. My favorite part of baseball cards as a kid growing up weren't the pitchers on the front, but the players' statistics on the back. It's no surprise then that I find myself looking at this upcoming trip in terms of numbers. I'm sure I'll do a similar video at the conclusion of the trip, but here are some numbers that I can estimate here at this pre-trip stage. We'll start with a small number, 9. From a mathematical perspective, it's a magic number. It's also a square number and the highest single digit in our decimal system. It's also the number of states I'll be traveling through on my bicycle. Those states are California, Nevada, Utah, Colorado, Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, Kentucky, and Virginia. I could go 1.6 miles off route and 180 feet of additional climbing at an area past Damascus, Virginia, to the Tennessee border. This would tack on a 10th state. I'll see how I'm feeling that day if I want to do that. The state we'll be spending the least amount of time in will be Illinois, with only 135 miles. There are 4 states that are pretty close in terms of the most mileage, and those are Colorado with 556, Utah with 539, and Kentucky with 491 miles. But the mileage winner will be my final state of Virginia with 556 miles. In terms of total miles, the GPS tracks show 3,750. This assumes no detours, no stops, no going off route a few blocks to a restaurant or down a side road to a campsite. I would expect to tack on 1 to 2 miles per day on top of the planned route, so the total mileage could be closer to 3,850. If it was legal, what if we rode the whole way on freeways? In other words, what would be the shortest drive from San Francisco to Yorktown? It's 2,937 miles, a shocking 900 miles shorter than the route we're taking. The drive would be a little further north and pass through 11 states: California, Nevada, Utah, Wyoming, Nebraska, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Virginia. On this trip, I estimate that my back wheel will make 2.9 million rotations given the tire size I'm using. My smaller front wheel will have to work quite a bit harder, making 4.1 million rotations. With those numbers, I can start to see how improbable it would be to go the distance without catching a nail, a screw, or a thorn that makes its way to the tube. In terms of pedal strokes, this one is just a rough estimate, but based on some assumptions and math, I'll probably rotate my pedals a full 360 degrees 1.2 million times this summer. The days of riding, I'm putting that at 66 for now, and this is if everything goes perfect. Yes, we might combine 2 days into one, but the more likely scenario is that we're going to be adding on days because of weather or other delays in our schedule or needing of rest days. A daily riding average at 66 days would be 58 miles. Our daily average feet of climbing is 2,920 feet. This will be a good baseline number to know when a day will be easier or more difficult than average with respect to climbing. I'm assuming only the climb here, since it's much more indicative of the difficulty of the ride than net elevation gained or lost. A day with a 6,000-foot ascent and a 6,000-foot descent would have an equal net elevation to a day with a completely flat route. But despite the benefit of a 6,000-foot descent, that climbing day would be significantly more difficult than the flat day. So that's my justification for only considering daily ascent when deciding on daily scheduled destination goals. Our highest mountain pass will happen in Colorado at Monarch Pass. This is 11,312 feet above sea level. I lived in Mussoorie, India, and Flagstaff, Arizona in the past. Both of these sit at an elevation of 7,000 feet above sea level, but not much oxygen is going to reach my lungs and my bloodstream above 11,000 feet. The next number is a small one, about 16 inches. Any guesses as to what that might be? It's actually our net elevation loss across the entire route. Well, how can that be? I thought you were going ocean to ocean. Well, we are, but the Pacific Ocean is 16 inches or 40 centimeters higher than the Atlantic Ocean because the Pacific Ocean has lower density. And to be honest with you, this was really the primary reason for going west to east. I wanted the benefit of that additional 16 inches of downhill. I tip my hat to all those courageous westbound Transamerican riders for tackling the challenge of an additional 16-inch climb. If 100% of my warm showers requests are granted, and I make all of my planned daily destinations. Both of those are highly unlikely, but if both of those were to take place, then our nightly accommodation would look like this. 17 nights would be spent in traditional campgrounds. These are either national, state, or private campgrounds, but always ones where you have to pay a fee to camp. 11 nights of camping in city parks, and these are free, and there's abundance of them in Kansas and Missouri. 9 nights in churches. There are several churches along the route that open their doors to cyclists. Most of the churches are Methodist that do this, and a few Baptist. One is in Colorado, and the others are in Kentucky or Virginia. And sometimes these churches are opening up the interior of their church, usually like a youth room in the basement. And there's a couple of them that just have a pavilion out back that is covered, but they allow you to stay there for free. 11 nights at warm showers hosts. In each of the cities where I'm hoping for a warm showers host, I do have a backup plan. I'll expect maybe a 50% success rate with those warm showers requests. And these people are true trail angels, offering not only a bed and an air-conditioned room and a hot shower, but sometimes even home-cooked meals as well. Can't wait for that. 2 nights I will stay with friends that I have along the route. With so many of the towns being small, the percentage of the population of America that I would be passing through is really quite small. This would be an interesting analysis to do, but if you took away San Francisco from the mix, the big cities you'd be left with would be Sacramento, Pueblo, and Richmond. Add to those all the dots on the map that have 50 to 5,000 population, and I'm guessing our route will take us through maybe 0.5% of the nation's population. And finally, 10 nights in hotels. I see this number as a bare minimum because this is going to frequently be the backup plan when warm showers requests aren't granted or if the weather isn't conducive to camping. Those are certainly the most expensive of all the options, and it's nice to have Paul with me so that we can share these costs. It'll be interesting to compare the actual numbers for accommodation at the end of the trip with what I'm planning for now. In my previous video on the packing list, I shared that I weighed every single item that I'm taking. The total weight of my luggage, its contents, and even the clothes I'll be wearing is 55 pounds or 25 kilograms. That number doesn't include any food or water. With me and the bike, we're looking at 270 pounds or 122 kilograms. Again, this is without food or water. And most of the time I'll start the day with just 45 ounces or 1.3 liters of water if I'm able to fill up along the way. But on those stretches between towns in Nevada and Utah where there's no services and no water, I have an additional 3 liters on top of that, so a total of 4.3 liters. And if all of that water is stocked on my bike and estimating maybe 5 pounds of food on top of that, I think that the absolute max that my bike would be with me on it, everything, all the water filled, is looking at 282 pounds or 128 kilograms. And that number sounds frighteningly large, especially when you're thinking about cranking pedals to crest Monarch Pass at 11,300 feet. But I recently read a series of excellent articles on cyclingabout.com, and they suggest that a heavily weighed down bike, yes, it does result in a slower ride with greater effort, but the extent to which this is the case is much less than one would expect. They consider all of the factors, including the wind resistance of the luggage, flat riding versus uphill riding, and their conclusion is really interesting. They put numbers to it. That for each additional 10 kilograms that's loaded on your bike, or each additional 22 pounds that's loaded on your bike, that would add 6 minutes to your daily riding, a full day of riding. And they consider a full day of riding to be 62 miles with 3,300 feet of climbing. And those numbers are quite in line with my daily anticipated average. So then the question becomes, would I rather have 6 more minutes to relax at the end of the day? Or would I rather have the benefit of 22 more pounds of creature comforts? When I think about what I would have to get rid of to go down 22 pounds from what I am carrying right now, in no way is that worth arriving 6 minutes earlier to my destination every day. 7,128 is the next number. That's the number of songs that I currently have on my phone that I can put on shuffle. I keep all of my 4- and 5-star rated songs on my phone, and it creates such a diverse and wonderful soundtrack to my ride. Assuming 8-hour riding days, and if each song were 4 minutes long, I would be able to ride 60 days straight without hearing a song repeated. But for the first 2 days on the road, for sure, I'm not going to listen to any music because I don't want anything influencing my senses. I just want to hear the road and the traffic and nature. And, later on when I need some motivation, I'm sure I'll be cranking up the tunes. There are certainly other numbers that I'd like to know if I had much more time to dedicate to this video, like the number of tunnels I'll be going under, the number of bridge crossings, number of railroad crossings, number of stop signs I'll go through, and traffic lights I'll go through, the number of turns that I have to make, and the number of individual roads that I will be on, the number of cars that pass me, and heck, how about the number of cars that I pass? It could happen. Maybe there's some construction or road work, and I'm riding on the shoulder past all these cars, so I might pass a few cars. And of course, the number of other Transamerican cyclists that we meet, both westbounders and eastbounders. That'll be an easier one to keep track of when I'm riding. In terms of post-trip numbers, I'll be capturing costs for sure, like the total money spent on accommodation, total money spent on groceries and dining out, and then other money spent like laundry, non-food provisions, any replacement parts needed for the bike, any shipments home, or entrance fees to national parks or a museum that we might enter. That's all I could think of for pre-trip numbers. In about 6 weeks, I'll finally be able to turn these numbers into experiences on the road. See you next time.